I'm sitting in the business lounge at O'Hare's Terminal 3, watching bubbles rise in my champagne glass. This is my third glass in the last 40 minutes, but my hands are still shaking. Not from fear, no. From anticipation. From that electric charge shooting through my fingertips when you realize there's no going back. In front of me on the foam marble table lies my boarding pass. Chicago to Miami. One way. Next to it, my phone vibrates on the polished surface. It's Tom. My husband. My boring, predictable, reliable as a Swiss Army knife and just as emotionally dull husband. He's texting me about how he scheduled our dog's vet appointment for Tuesday and asking if I remembered to pay the homeowner's insurance. I read these lines and I'm overcome with laughter. Hysterical, bitter laughter that I have to drown with a gulp of ice-cold brute. Poor Tom. He thinks I'm flying to a marketing conference. He thinks that in 3 days I'll come home, we'll order pepperoni pizza and watch another series until he falls asleep 10 minutes in with his mouth hanging open. He doesn't know we don't have a home anymore. He doesn't know we don't have insurance anymore. And most importantly, he doesn't know we don't have us anymore. I swipe across the screen and open the banking app. I need to see these numbers again. Just to make sure this isn't a dream or some stress-induced hallucination. $215,432.18. My golden parachute. My compensation for 10 years spent on a man who gave me bookstore gift certificates for Christmas instead of emotions. I don't consider this theft. I call it severance pay. After all, I kept the books for his boring little company for 10 years. I know every loophole, every account he opened to save on taxes. And now that knowledge has paid off in full. Over the speakers, they announce boarding for my flight. I grab my suitcase, which doesn't contain a single business suit, only silk, lace, and a new life. I walk to the gate feeling like a criminal who just robbed a bank but instead of running for cover is strolling down the red carpet. The people around me seem like gray shadows. They're flying to vacations with their screaming kids or business trips with their hated bosses. And I'm flying to Rick. Rick. Even thinking his name makes my heart beat somewhere in my throat. Rick is not Tom. Rick is chaos. Rick is a fire you want to burn alive in. We met 6 months ago in a hotel bar where I actually was at a conference. He didn't ask me about mortgages or what to make for dinner. He looked at me like I was the only woman in the world and suggested I leave with him right then. I refused that time. But the seed had been planted. I board the plane and the flight attendant offers me a welcome drink with her professional smile. I ask for a gin and tonic because champagne isn't cutting it anymore. I settle into my seat and close my eyes. Images from the last few months flash through my mind. Our secret meetings at motels on the outskirts of town. How Rick whispered that I deserved better. That I was a goddess trapped in a housewife's body. He said he needed money for a startup in Miami. Some brilliant project involving cryptocurrencies or something like that I don't understand. But I understand people. I saw his burning eyes. I saw how he believed in himself. And I believed in him. Tom never looked at me like that. To Tom, I was a function. A convenient accessory to his measured life. Alice will make dinner. Alice will pick up the dry cleaning. Alice will balance the books at the end of the quarter. I was furniture. Expensive, well-maintained furniture that occasionally gets dusted. The plane begins its takeoff roll and I'm pressed into my seat. I feel Chicago with its winds and obligations falling away below. I picture Tom's face when he realizes. When he comes home and sees the empty closets. When he tries to log into online banking and sees zero. At first he won't believe it. He'll call the bank and scream at the operators. He'll think it's a system error or an attack by Russian hackers. And then it'll dawn on him. He'll understand that quiet, meek Alice, the one he knew for 10 years, turned out to be smarter, more cunning, and more ruthless than he could have imagined. The weak get eaten, Tom. That's nature. And you were too weak for too long. We gain altitude and the fasten seatbelt sign goes off. I pull out my phone and turn on Wi-Fi. Rick should have already arrived at Miami Airport. We agreed he'd meet me at the terminal exit. He promised a surprise. A red convertible we'd been dreaming about. Wind in our hair, the ocean, and complete freedom. I open the messenger to text him that I'm on my way. His last message was 3 hours ago. He wrote that he loved me and couldn't wait to touch me. I write him that I've taken off and that I love him more than life. The message sends but the read receipt doesn't appear. He's probably driving. Or picking out flowers. Suddenly the plane shakes. Turbulence. My gin and tonic spills on my hand. Cold, sticky liquid. Unpleasant. The flight attendant asks everyone to take their seats. A strange anxiety grips me. Not because of the shaking. But because of some small, nagging thought buzzing at the edge of my consciousness. Last night when I was transferring the money, Tom acted strange. He wasn't sitting in his office as usual but walking around the house whistling. He even offered to give me a foot massage. I thought then that he was just trying to make up for forgetting our wedding anniversary. But now there's something false in that memory. His eyes. They weren't empty. There was something in them, hard? No, I must have imagined it. It's just paranoia. The fear of a criminal who's scared of every sound. I take a deep breath and try to calm down. Everything's going according to plan. I have the money. I have the ticket. Rick is waiting for me. In 3 hours I'll be drinking mojitos on South Beach and laughing at my old life. I close my eyes and try to picture our new apartment with an ocean view that Rick found for us. White walls, panoramic windows, the sound of waves. No reports. No veterinarians. No Tom. 3 hours fly by in a haze. I barely sleep, just sink into a viscous half-dream where Tom's and Rick's faces replace each other. When the landing gear touches the runway in Miami, I feel relief. I turn on my phone. The network connects instantly. I wait for a flood of messages from Rick. I'm here, waiting at exit 3, love you. But the screen is blank. Not a single new notification. Just spam from a taxi service and a calendar reminder that tomorrow is Tom's birthday. Damn, I completely forgot. Well, this will be my gift to him. Freedom from his bitch wife. Not a bad gift, I'd say. I exit the plane and Florida's humid. Hot air hits my face even through the air-conditioned jetway. I walk through the airport's long corridors and the click of my heels echoes in my temples. The baggage carousel spins endlessly. Finally my suitcase emerges from the black hole. I grab it and head for the exit. My heart pounds so hard I feel like passers-by can hear it. I step outside. The sun blinds my eyes. The noise of cars, honking, taxi drivers shouting. I scan the crowd of greeters. Looking for a familiar figure. Looking for his smile. Looking for a red convertible. No one. I stand in the middle of the sidewalk getting pushed by people with carts. I check my phone. The message still hasn't been read. I dial his number. Ringing. Long, drawn-out rings that seem endless. Then a click and a mechanical voice tells me the subscriber is temporarily unavailable or out of network coverage. I hang up and dial again. Same thing. Maybe his phone died. Maybe he mixed up the terminal. Maybe he's stuck in traffic. I try to suppress the panic that begins rising like a cold snake from my stomach to my throat. Everything's fine. This is just a minor glitch. Rick would never be late. Not today. Not on the day our new life begins. I decide not to wait in the heat but take myself to the hotel. We booked a room at the Fontainebleau. A luxurious suite with an ocean view. He's definitely there. Preparing champagne and rose petals. Wants to make it a surprise. Yeah, for sure. That's his style. I open the Uber app. My fingers slide across the wet screen. I select Uber Black because now I can afford it. I'm a rich woman. I enter the hotel address. The app searches for a car. Found. A black Cadillac will be here in 3 minutes. I tap confirm. A loading spinner appears on the screen. It spins for 1 second, 2, 3. And then a red error banner pops up. Payment declined. Please check your payment method or select another card. I frown. What error? There's $215,000 in there. I try again. Declined again. Insufficient funds or bank blocked the transaction. I break into a sweat. Not from the sun. From horror. With trembling fingers I minimize Uber and open the banking app. Face ID doesn't work on the first try because my hands are shaking in front of my face. I enter the passcode. The numbers jump before my eyes. The app loads agonizingly slowly. Finally the main screen appears. Balance, $0.00. I blink. Wipe the screen with my palm. Maybe it's a glare from the sun. Maybe it's a display error. I refresh the page. The spinner spins. Balance, $0.00. The ground drops out from under my feet. I grab the suitcase handle to keep from falling. This is impossible. I transferred the money myself yesterday. I saw it in Chicago 3 hours ago. Where could it have gone? I go into the transaction history. The last transaction was made 4 hours ago. Right when I was in the air. Transfer of the entire amount. $215,432. Recipient, T. Holdings LLC. I stare at these letters and my brain refuses to understand what it's seeing. TA Holdings. That's Tom's old company. Thomas Anderson Holdings. The company he closed 5 years ago. The company whose accounts I personally closed. This is impossible. Unless he reopened it. In secret from me. At that moment my phone comes alive in my hand. Incoming call. The name on the screen. Not Rick. Tom. I stare at the phone screen where Tom's name is pulsing and feel panic give way to cold fury. He knows. Somehow this office drone found out about the account. I probably forgot to log out of the system on the home computer or he hired some cheap IT guy to hack my password. But it changes nothing. The money is still rightfully mine. I press the answer button, ready to unleash a barrage of accusations and threats. I'm going to scream about hackers, about a bank error, about how he has no right to touch my savings. But before I can draw breath, his voice sounds in the receiver. It doesn't sound like I expected. No hysteria, no tears. He speaks calmly and even with a certain bored intonation. He asks me not to scream because people around are starting to turn. I freeze. What people? I'm standing alone on a sidewalk in Miami, 1,000 miles from our home. I tell him he's delirious and demand he return the money immediately or I'll call the police. Tom chuckles. I hear that sound so clearly as if he's standing right next to me. He says the police are a great idea, especially considering the charge of embezzlement of corporate funds in especially large amounts. He reminds me that TA Holdings is a legal entity and any unauthorized withdrawal of funds from its accounts is considered a federal crime. I feel my throat go dry. Where did this steel in him come from? Where's that spineless doormat who apologized if I burned myself on his coffee? I try to change tactics and start playing for pity. I say I'm scared, that I'm in a strange city without a penny to my name. I ask how he could do this to me after 10 years of marriage. Tom is silent for a couple seconds, then says that Miami has great weather today but the humidity is a bit high for his taste. Cold sweat breaks out on me. I slowly turn my head, scanning the crowd at the terminal exit. I search for him with my eyes but my brain refuses to believe he could be here. It's impossible. He should be in Chicago feeding the dog and watching TV. And then I see him. He's standing across the street by the tourist information booth. He's wearing ridiculous beige shorts and a Hawaiian shirt I gave him as a joke 3 years ago. He's holding his phone to his ear and looking straight at me. He doesn't wave. He doesn't smile. He just watches. Like an entomologist watching a beetle pinned to a board. In this moment my world tilts and begins to crumble. He didn't just hack the account. He flew with me. He was on the same plane. Probably sitting a few rows back in economy while I drank champagne and dreamed of a new life. He saw how nervous I was. Saw how I anticipated meeting my lover. He saw everything. I hang up and, not thinking straight, rush across the street. Cars honk, taxi drivers yell something after me, but I hear nothing. Adrenaline is boiling in me. I want to hit him. Want to wipe that calm expression off his face. I run up to him, breathless from the heat and anger. I scream in his face, asking what sick show he staged here and where my money is. I demand answers. I'm acting like a lunatic, but I don't care. Tom doesn't even blink. He puts his phone in his pocket and nods to someone behind my back. He says he's glad I finally joined them because his companion was starting to get bored. I spin around sharply, expecting to see police or lawyers. But standing there is Rick. My Rick. My god of chaos. My hope for salvation. But he looks different. He doesn't rush to me with open arms. He doesn't shield me from my tyrant husband. He stands slouching, hands shoved in his jeans pockets, staring at the pavement. He's wearing the same leather jacket I used to love so much, but now under Florida's scorching sun it looks ridiculous and pathetic. I take a step toward him, reach out my hands. I tell him that Tom knows everything, that he stole our money but we'll figure something out. I say we'll manage, that the main thing is we're together. Rick raises his eyes to me and I see in them something I'd never noticed before. Boredom. And fear. But not for me. For himself. He takes a step back, dodging my touch. He mumbles something incoherent about the situation getting out of control and that he didn't sign up for federal crimes. I don't understand what he's talking about. I look at Tom, demanding explanations. Tom sighs and pulls a fat white envelope from his shorts pocket. He says that he and Richard, that's what he calls my Rick, have already discussed everything while waiting for me. He says Richard turned out to be a very reasonable young man who knows how to prioritize. Tom explains to me like a child that Richard has some financial difficulties. Gambling debts, overdue loans, and apparently problems with some serious people over substances. I look at Rick, expecting him to laugh in Tom's face. For him to hit him. For him to say our love can't be bought. But Rick is silent. He stares at the envelope in Tom's hands like a hungry dog at a piece of meat. Tom continues his speech. He says he offered Richard a choice. Option 1, me and my frozen accounts plus the prospect of legal proceedings for fraud in which Richard would go down as an accomplice. Option 2, $10,000 in cash right now, a ticket to Las Vegas, and complete disappearance from our lives. I feel the ground drop out from under my feet for the second time today. This is some kind of madness. This can't be happening. I scream at Rick not to listen to him. I say we have love, that will start from scratch. I beg him to look at me. Rick finally looks. There's no love in his eyes. Just a calculator. He licks his lips and tells me in a quiet, hoarse voice that 10 grand is serious money. He says he's really sorry but he can't risk prison. He says I'm a cool woman but business is business. Tom holds out the envelope. Rick snatches it almost instantly. He checks the thickness of the stack and hides it in his jacket's inside pocket. He doesn't even count it. He just wants to leave. He mumbles some pathetic goodbye without looking me in the eyes, turns around and walks quickly toward the taxi stand. I stand and watch him go. My brain refuses to process this information. The man for whom I destroyed my life. The man I considered my soulmate. The man who swore eternal love to me 3 hours ago in Messenger. He just sold me out. Sold me for $10,000. Cheaper than a used SUV. I turned to Tom. I want to tear him to pieces. I want to claw his eyes out. I scream that he's a monster. That he bought him. That it's not fair. That he's a manipulator and a psychopath. Tom listens to me with the same impassive expression. When I run out of steam and fall silent, he calmly says he didn't buy his love. He just bought his absence. He says he's known about Rick for 6 months. He hired a private detective back in January when I started staying late at work. He knew about every hotel, every dinner, every dollar I transferred to Rick's accounts. He knew that Rick has 2 other such goddesses in other states whom he milks using the same scheme. Tom says he could have made a scene back then. Could have kicked me out. But he decided to wait. He wanted to see how far I'd go. He wanted to give me a chance to stop. But I didn't stop. I kept lying to his face. I kept stealing his money. And then he decided that if I wanted to play games, we'd play by his rules. He says it was an auction. And I lost. My bid was beaten. Rick chose cash. I stand before him, crushed, humiliated, and empty. Miami's sun now feels like a spotlight in an interrogation room. I realize that all this time, while I considered myself a predator, I was just a mouse being toyed with by a well-fed cat. Tom isn't boring. Tom isn't stupid. Tom is an iceberg I didn't notice until I crashed into it at full speed. I watch the yellow taxi with Rick disappear around the corner and feel a strange emptiness where a minute ago was the love of my life. Now there are 2 of us left. Me and Tom. My boring, predictable husband who just pulled off the most cynical deal in the history of divorce proceedings. I turn to him expecting to see triumph on his face. But there's nothing. No gloating, no anger. Only fatigue. He looks at me like a broken copier that's easier to throw out than fix. I try to gather the remnants of my pride. I straighten my back and tell him that sure, he's clever for buying off the gigolo, but it changes nothing. I remind him we're still married. That we don't have a prenup. That I'll sue him for half the house, half the business, and half his retirement savings. I say I'll hire the best lawyers and bankrupt him for stealing my money from the offshore account. I scream that he'll regret the day he decided to play these games with me. Tom sighs and pulls a tablet from his Hawaiian bag. He swipes across the screen and turns it toward me. I see a scanned document. At the top, a law firm's logo. At the bottom, my sweeping signature. That same signature with the flourish at the end I was so proud of. I squint from the sun, trying to make out the text. The letters dance before my eyes. Tom helps me. In a calm voice, he reminds me about that evening 2 weeks ago. We were drinking wine. A lot of wine. I had just returned from Rick's, elated and drunk on my own impunity. Tom said he had problems with the IRS and needed to urgently transfer some assets to shield them from auditors. He slipped me a stack of papers. I laughed and signed without reading. I thought I was helping him cheat the government. I felt like an accomplice. Tom zooms in on a paragraph on the screen. There's not a word about taxes. It's an agreement on division of property in case of divorce due to marital infidelity. It says in black and white that in case of proven infidelity by one party, the guilty party waives all claims to jointly acquired property including real estate, business shares, and bank accounts. In exchange, the guilty party receives a one-time payment of $215,000. The same money I transferred to myself yesterday. And which Tom took back this morning as compensation for moral damages according to Section 12.4 of the same agreement. I look at him and my mouth opens in a silent scream. It's a trap. A perfect legal mousetrap. He didn't just know about Rick. He used my greed and my confidence in his stupidity to make me sign my own sentence. I gave him everything myself. Voluntarily. With a smile. I start babbling something about being drunk, that this is fraud, that no judge will recognize this document. Tom puts away the tablet. He says the document includes a video recording of that evening. In it I look perfectly competent. I joke, laugh, and carefully read the first page. The very one where my compensation amount is specified. He says his lawyers have already filed the documents with Chicago court. The divorce will be finalized in absentia. I feel the hot asphalt burning the soles of my feet even through my shoes. I have no home. I have no money. I have no lover. I don't even have a return ticket. I'm standing in the middle of a strange city with a suitcase stuffed with lacy lingerie that now there's no one to show. Tom looks at his watch. He says his flight is in 2 hours. He's returning home. To the dog. To work. To a life where there are no more lies. He takes a step toward the road and raises his hand to hail a taxi. A car stops instantly. I grab the sleeve of his Hawaiian shirt. I humiliate myself. I cry. I say I have nowhere to go. That I don't have money even for water. I beg him not to leave me here. I say I understand everything. That I'll change. That we can try again. Tom carefully detaches my fingers from his hand. He doesn't push me away roughly. He does it with disgust, like removing a stuck hair from clothing. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small velvet pouch. I recognize it. It's Rick's gift for my birthday a month ago. Diamond earrings. I was so proud of them. I rubbed them in Tom's face saying I bought them myself on sale. Tom places the pouch in my palm. He says Richard forgot this in the car when they drove here. He says he stopped by a pawn shop to appraise them. Just out of curiosity. He says they're cubic zirconia and cheap silver. Fair price $50. But it'll be enough for a couple burgers and a hostel. He gets in the taxi. The door slams shut. I see his profile through the tinted glass. He puts on headphones. He doesn't even look in my direction. The car pulls away and merges into traffic. I'm left alone. Life boils around me. People meet, hug, laugh. Someone's dragging surfboards. Someone's yelling at kids. The world didn't stop. It doesn't care that my life just ended. I clutch the velvet pouch with fake diamonds in my hand. Symbol of my great love. Symbol of my stupidity. I walk to the nearest bench and sit right on my suitcase. My legs won't hold me. I sit like this for about 10 minutes just staring at one spot. My head is empty. A ringing, cotton-like emptiness. I should feel remorse. I should think about where I stumbled. I should cry over the lost husband who actually loved me. But I don't feel remorse. I feel anger. Burning, poisonous anger. At Rick, who turned out to be cheap, selling himself for $10,000. At Tom, who turned out to be too smart. At myself for underestimating my opponent. I get up and go to the terminal bathroom. Stand in front of the mirror. Mascara ran, lipstick smeared. I look like an alcoholic panda. I turn on the cold water and wash my face. Wash off the tears. Wash off the self-pity. I pull out my makeup bag. Foundation. Lipstick. A little blush. 5 minutes later, a tired but still beautiful woman looks back at me from the mirror. A woman who's 42 years old but looks 35. A woman who has experience and no conscience. I pull out my phone. 15% battery left. That's enough. I open Tinder. My old profile is still there, hidden but not deleted. I change the geolocation to Miami. I change the status to actively looking. I upload the photo I took on the plane. In it I'm with a glass of champagne, smiling and looking like a successful businesswoman who flew in for vacation. I write in the profile description, just flew in. Want to forget about work and drink the best mojito in the city. Looking for a generous guide. I press save. And start swiping right. First match, Michael, 45 years old, owner of a chain of car dealerships. Second match. David, 50 years old, real estate investor. Third match. Tom thinks he taught me a lesson. He thinks he broke me and threw me on the side of the road. He thinks I'll crawl home on my knees. Idiot. The only lesson I learned today is that you shouldn't sign papers without reading them, and you shouldn't trust men who wear leather jackets in the heat. I'm not a broken printer, Tom. I'm a virus. You deleted me from your computer, but I'm already on the network. And I'll just find a new hard drive. Richer and dumber. The phone vibrates. Message from Michael. Hey beautiful. Welcome to Miami. Can I treat you to dinner? I smile at my reflection in the mirror. The smile of a shark that smelled blood. I type a reply. Hey Michael. I'm starving. Will you pick me up from the airport? Send. I press the send button and stare at the screen like it's an icon. 3 dots pulse, showing Michael is typing a response. My heart beats in rhythm with those dots. I've already made up a scenario. He'll arrive in a white Mercedes. We'll go to a restaurant that serves crabs. I'll tell him a sad story about how the airline lost my luggage and blocked my cards. Of course he'll believe it. Men always believe beautiful women in trouble. Especially if that trouble lets them feel like heroes. The phone vibrates. Message from Michael. Great. I'm at Joe's Stone Crab on South Beach right now. Come over. Table under Michael. Waiting. I read this message and the smile slides off my face like cheap plaster. South Beach. That's 20 miles from the airport. A taxi would cost about $40. I don't have $40. I don't even have 40 cents. I quickly type a response. Write that I'm very tired after the flight and maybe he could come pick me up. I add a kiss emoji. I wait. 1 minute. 2. 5. The phone is silent. Michael read the message but didn't reply. I see 2 blue check marks. They stare at me like a judge's eyes. I understand what happened. Michael's no idiot. He's local. He knows that pick me up from the airport from a Tinder stranger is a red flag. It means either escort or trouble. And Michael, car dealership owner, doesn't want trouble. He wants an easy evening. I write another message. More insistent. Michael? You there? The reply comes instantly. Sorry, plans changed. Good luck. Followed by a notification, user unmatched. I stare at the darkened screen. My new hard drive just formatted me. I feel a wave of panic rising inside. That was my best chance. My only chance at dinner and a place to sleep. I look around. The terminal is starting to empty. Evening flights are taking off. People rush to their gates. Nobody cares about a woman in an expensive suit sitting on a suitcase by the bathroom. I feel thirsty. My throat is so dry it hurts to swallow. I look at the water fountain on the wall. There's a line. A mom with 3 kids, some guy with a backpack. I can't stand in that line. I'm Alice. I drink Veuve Clicquot, not warm tap water in a public bathroom. But thirst is stronger than pride. I wait for the line to clear. Walk up to the fountain. Bend down. The water smells like chlorine and iron. I take a sip. Another. Water runs down my chin, drips onto my silk blouse. I wipe myself with my sleeve. The sleeve of a $1,500 blazer. I don't care. I return to the bench. My stomach cramps with hunger. I haven't eaten since morning. Those peanuts on the plane seem like a delicacy now. I dig into my purse. Maybe there's a mint candy in there? Gum? Anything. My fingers hit the velvet pouch. The earrings. I pull them out. They sparkle in the terminal's artificial light. Tom said they're cubic zirconia. Cheap stuff. But Tom could have lied. He wanted to hurt me. He wanted to humiliate me. Rick was a bastard, sure, but he loved to show off. He couldn't have given me glass. He's too vain for that. I get up. I have a goal. In the departure area there's a jewelry boutique. I saw it when I walked here. I grab my suitcase and head there. The click of my heels now sounds not like a confident march but the clatter of a worn-out horse's hooves. The boutique is empty. The saleswoman, a young girl with perfect makeup, looks at me with polite indifference. I approach the counter and lay out the earrings. I try to sound confident. I say they're a gift from my husband but I don't like the design. I want to return or exchange them. The girl picks up one earring. She doesn't even take out a loop. She just weighs it in her palm and smirks. She says they don't accept costume jewelry. I feel color flood my face. I insist. I say these are diamonds. That they cost a fortune. I demand to see the manager. The girl sighs. She pulls out a tester. Touches the probe to the stone. The device is silent. She touches it to the other one. Silence. She looks at me like I'm insane. She says these aren't even cubic zirconia. It's glass. Good cut glass in a silver-plated alloy. A set like this would go for $20 on a good day at a flea market. I take back the earrings. My hands are shaking so badly I drop one on the glass counter. The sound of impact seems deafening. I grab it and practically run for the exit. With my back I feel the saleswoman's gaze. There's no pity in it. Only disgust. I run out of the boutique and crash into a security guard. He's big, black, and smells like coffee. He holds my shoulder so I don't fall. He asks if I'm okay. I nod. I try to smile my signature smile that used to open any door for me. But my facial muscles won't obey. The smile comes out crooked and pathetic. The guard releases me. He says the arrivals area is closing for cleaning in an hour. He says I need to either go to the exit or the taxi waiting area. I head for the exit. The automatic doors slide open, releasing me into Miami's muggy night. The humidity covers me like a wet blanket. My hairstyle finally dies, turning into sticky icicles. I step away from the flow of people and sit on a concrete curb. Right in my white pants. I don't care. I watch the road. Taxis, limousines, buses drive by. Inside them sit people who have homes. Who have money. Who have lives. And I have a suitcase full of lacy lingerie and a phone with 10% battery. I open Tinder again. Maybe someone else? David? The real estate investor? I write to him. Hey. You up? Silence. I write to another one. And another. And another. I copy the same message. Hey, I'm in town passing through. Want to keep me company? I lower the bar. I write to a guy who's 28 and has a motorcycle in his photo. I write to a man with no photo whose username is looking for fun. Nobody answers. Or they answer but immediately suggest I come to them. To a motel. To a trailer. To some basement. One writes a price. $100 an hour. I stare at this message. $100. That's 2 meals. Or 1 night in the cheapest hostel. I'm Alice. I'm the wife of a company owner. I'm a woman who wears silk. I block him. But the thought remains. It sits in my head like a nail. $100. I close my eyes. I remember Tom. How he sat in his chair reading a book. How he brought me tea when I was sick. How he paid my bills without asking questions. I called it boring. Now I understand it was security. I sold security for the illusion of passion. And now I'm paying the bills. Suddenly a car stops next to me. An old beat-up Ford. The window rolls down. Behind the wheel sits a guy. Unshaven, wearing a cap. He looks at me. At my suitcase. At my shoes. "Hey," he says. "Need a ride?" I look at him. There's no admiration in his eyes. There's assessment. He's assessing me like merchandise. Like Rick did. Like Tom did. Like I've assessed everyone my whole life. "Where to?" I ask. My voice is hoarse. "Wherever you say," he smiles. "He's missing a tooth. We'll work something out." I grip the suitcase handle. This is my crash. This is my rock bottom. I'm sitting on a curb in a strange city bargaining with an illegal taxi driver because I have nowhere to sleep. I should get up and leave. I should go back to the terminal and sleep on the floor. I should preserve what's left of my dignity. But I don't get up. I look at his car. The air conditioning is running. It's cool in there. "I don't have any money," I say. It's the truth. It's the most honest thing I've said in the last 10 years. The guy smirks. He opens the passenger door. I said we'll work something out. I stare into the dark interior. It's a black hole. If I get in there, that Alice will be gone. There'll be someone else. Someone who survives. I stand up. Take the suitcase. And take a step toward the car. I won't tell you what happened that night. I'll just say I survived. The human psyche is an amazingly flexible thing. It knows how to erase from memory what could destroy it. I learned to block memories just like I blocked Rick's number. Just a black screen. Just emptiness. 6 months have passed. Now I live in Cleveland. It's not Miami. Here there's gray sky, dirty snow, and people who shop for clothes at big box stores. I work as a receptionist at a dental clinic. The pay is low, but at least the work is clean. And the doctors here make decent money. I rent a tiny studio on the outskirts. It smells like someone else's fried potatoes and dampness. My wardrobe now consists of jeans and sweaters. I sold the silk blouses to a consignment shop to pay for the first month's rent. Those fake earrings I threw into the ocean before leaving. That was my only beautiful gesture. Sometimes in the evenings when it gets really bleak I go to Tom's social media page. I have a fake account with no photo. I watch his life like a viewer in a movie theater. Tom looks good. He lost weight, got a tan. Probably started running. In the latest photos he's not alone. Next to him is some woman. Ordinary. Not a model. She has a kind face and wide hips. They're standing with arms around each other in front of our house. My house. They're smiling like they know some secret. Under the photo are captions: "Happy, new beginning, thank you for being in my life." I read the comments. Tom's friends write how happy they are for him. Write that he deserves happiness after that nightmare. The nightmare is me. I'm now an urban legend. A horror story men tell each other over beers. You hear about Tom's ex? What a bitch. I look at these photos and try to understand what I feel. Jealousy? No. Regret? Maybe. But not about Tom. I regret the comfort I lost. I regret my car, my kitchen, my status. I regret being careless. I don't feel guilt. Guilt is for the weak. For those who have a conscience. I have no conscience. I have survival instinct. Tom treated me cruelly. He didn't just divorce me. He destroyed me. He planned my execution with the cold calculation of a psychopath. He savored every moment of my downfall. Is a normal person capable of that? Would a good guy buy his wife's lover for $10,000 just to watch the show? No. Tom and I are cut from the same cloth. He just disguised himself better. He wore the mask of a boring husband for 10 years. I wore the mask of a loving wife. His mask turned out stronger. That's all. He won this war not because he was right but because he turned out to be a bigger predator. Yesterday a new patient came to our clinic. A man about 50. A widower. Owner of a chain of dry cleaners. He has sad eyes and an expensive watch. While he was filling out paperwork we chatted. I smiled at him with that same smile I practiced in front of the mirror. I said he looked stressed and offered to bring him water. He looked at me with gratitude. With that same gratitude I saw in Tom's eyes 10 years ago. He invited me for coffee. I accepted. I won't rush. I'll be smarter. I'll check his accounts. I'll read everything I sign. I'll be perfect. I'll become the woman he dreams of. I'll fill his emptiness with myself. And then when he relaxes, when he starts to trust me completely, I'll take what's mine. I'm not a monster. I'm just a woman who needs to survive. And I learned my lesson. Love isn't butterflies in your stomach. Love is a transaction. And next time I'll be the one dictating the terms of the contract. I close the laptop. It's raining in Cleveland. But I know somewhere the sun is shining. And I'll definitely get there. Whatever it costs me. So that's it, that's the whole story. If you enjoyed this story and want to keep listening to more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you don't miss new episodes. Remember, your support is really, really important for the channel to keep growing. And now I have a question for you. Who do you think is the real monster in this story? Alice, who cheated on her husband and wanted to steal his money for the sake of phantom happiness? Or Tom, who coldly watched this for 6 months, prepared a trap, and ultimately destroyed the life of a woman he once loved just to feed his ego? Did he have the right to such cruel revenge? Is it fair to leave someone on the street without a penny in a strange city knowing it could push them to rock bottom? Or does Alice's betrayal justify any means? And one more thing. Do you think Alice changed? Did she learn anything, or do people like this never change and the new widower with the dry cleaners is just her next victim? Write your opinion in the comments. I'll read every response because this story really hit me hard and I genuinely want to know whose side you're on.